Welcome to the Matt Largent Concert.
Because if you're going to screw it up with style. You've got to serve and serve first, and then you have to make that conscious decision to lead.
Oh, if you have any problems, dial information. Thank you for calling.
Well, hey, and welcome back to the Matt Largent Concert. Man, we're in season 5. I have not really run a rant so far this season. Last week's episode, we talked about burnout. We talked about how to recognize it, how to work through it, returning to that optimal anxiety, that optimal state where growth thrives. And today I want to take it one step further. I want to talk about ways that we can explore and be sustainable leaders. These long-term strategies and ideas to prevent burnout before it happens so that you can create a foundation for sustained success in your leadership journey. And so, I've got a lot to get through today in 30 minutes. And so I'm going to try and get through them. I got 5 key points that I want to talk about with sustainable leadership practices, because it's really, really hard. If you remember from the graph last week, we talked about optimal anxiety and being at the top of that hill. Well, that hill is curved. And so when we push ourselves up to that optimal anxiety, it's really easy to push us over that edge into burnout, or to fall back down into boredom, complacency, apathy. Apathy and complacency are a huge enemy, but so is anxiety and burnout. And so trying to find that really hard center is very, very difficult. And so that's what we want to talk about today, is how to be in that center, how to be in optimal anxiety more sustainably and long term. Because it really is a balancing act to maintain that high performance and without burnout and without, slipping and becoming bored. But there are some practices that you can put in place that make it possible to lead with energy, with clarity, and vision for the long haul. So I'm going to dive into these 5 things. And as I kind of alluded to, I'd like to have time for a rant, but I want to get through these. There's so much to unpack, and we only have a couple episodes left in this season. We have today, we have next week, and then the week after that. Episode 12 is going to be our final episode of this season, and then we'll have a week or two, and then we'll get right back into it. And I'm starting to do some research and work for next season's episodes, and starting to prepare for that. And then we also have a new show that will be coming out very soon. A long time, person who's joined us, Matt Rowe, and I are going to be starting a podcast show, hopefully here in the next month or so, maybe at the beginning of the year. So look for that. Shepherds in the World. We're going to be talking about Christian leadership in a non-Christian world. And so, let's get ready for that, and let's dive into today. And so again, usually I try to just get 4 segments, 4 little pieces in, 4 pieces of advice. Today I've got 5, because really trying to find that balancing act is incredibly hard, and it's incredibly important. And so really want to dive into that and talk about that. And the first thing that we want to talk about is the power of boundaries. Because this is probably the most important sustainable leadership practice, setting and maintaining boundaries. Because as leaders, it's easy for us to feel responsible for everything. We need to answer emails, take on every challenge, work nonstop. But this is a fast track to burnout. It really is. Stanford University shows that productivity drops dramatically after 50 hours of work per week, and continuing to push beyond that can cause long-term damage to your mental health and well-being. So setting boundaries around your time and energy isn't just about protecting yourself. It's also about creating sustainable productivity. It's about empowering your people. It's about work-life balance. And I've talked about work-life balance on several occasions in the show, and work-life balance isn't always just about how many hours you work, Because let's face it, if you're only working 40 hours a week, but you have a high burnout, high stress, high anxiety during those 40 hours, well, you're thinking about it an hour or two before, you're coming down from an hour or two after. It's eating at you at home, and it just becomes a horrible work-life balance. Um, Vice versa, if you only work, if you're working 60, 70 hours a week, you still have a good opportunity for burnout because it's overwhelming you. Even if it's not high anxiety, maybe you're just going through the motions. It can burn out you. It can lead you to burnout very, very easily. And so you want to find that good, healthy balance. One thing I always tell my managers, my leaders, there's nothing that you're going to get done in 50 hours that you couldn't have done in 40 hours. Now, that's not to say that you're not going to work extra hours. As leaders, we know that it's our responsibility. So, especially if you're in like a service industry or something like that, you may work a lot of hours. Um, and that's going to happen sometimes, especially with staffing, economy issues, things like that. It's going to go up and down and all around. And so you may have sometimes when you're working long hours, sometimes when you're working short hours. It's a balancing act, but it's about making that time productive and doing what you need to do in the time that you have allotted. Um, and so, one of the key strategies that I always talk about is you need to define what is non negotiable personal time. Um, Evenings with the family, morning workouts, weekend rest days. These boundaries help you to recharge, avoid burnout, and ensure you're able to show up as your best self for your team. Um, I'm going to tell you, you know what? I'm going to rant.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Around the track. Around the track. One lap. One lap. No sweat. No sweat. Can you hang? Can you hang? Can you hang? Can you hang? Hell yeah.
If this is your first time listening, then that's my rant music. I'm going to rant for a minute. Some of you leaders are you're not setting good, healthy boundaries for yourself. You're running to McDonald's to eat. You're spending your downtime sitting in a lazy boy, watching the television, or just doing nothing instead of doing things and making your personal life count. You spend so much time at work or working hard that you come home and you're like, I'm not going to do anything. And then you wonder why you don't have work-life balance. You wonder why it feels like I never have any time, because you're spending all of your time doing nothing. Okay. You have got to get up. You have got to do things on your personal time. You've got to have hobbies. You've got to have energy. You've got to have mental, physical, and emotional and spiritual well-being in your personal life, or it's never going to have a balance, because you have, hopefully you have emotional investment into your workspace, because that's what engagement truly is. And if you're a leader and you're not engaged, we got a bigger issue. We need to talk, get it in the comments. Let's have a conversation. But I'm telling you, I hear some of these people and they're like, well, I just, I'm eating at my desk, or I'm doing this, or, hey, I hear people who are working 10, 12 hours a day, and then they're going home and working on things, or they're just sitting around. Now I have a leader that works for me right now that works 9, 10, 11-hour days, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, but has a very active personal life, very engaged with children, very engaged with family, very engaged with home, doing things around the house, very active all the way around. Now, the amount of energy that takes, I can't fathom. Wish I could bottle that person up. We could probably solve some crises, but it is insane, the amount. But if you're going to work and maybe not even just eating at your desk, maybe you're going down the street and eating a bunch of crap food, uh, you're not setting good, powerful boundaries for yourself. It's about defining these things. When we talk about defining non-negotiable personal time, means that you need to define to yourself non-negotiable time. I have several pieces of non-negotiable time. Non-negotiable time for me is workouts. I get up at 5 a.m., 5 to 6 days a week. I say 5 to 6, I shoot for 6. Sometimes I have a quit day. It's going to happen. And you've got to understand that you need to give yourself grace and forgiveness. It's not like I'm going to lose my mind if I miss a day, but 5 to 6 days a week, I'm up at 5 a.m. working out for, 45 minutes to an hour, finish it up with a nice walk. And that is so releasing to have that active, aggressive time where I'm able to, that is non-negotiable for me. It's non-negotiable for me to have learning time. This show for me is a non-negotiable time. It gives me the opportunity that I'm researching materials and information, and I'm learning things just as much as you. And you've got to understand, it's so important for everyone just to be very, very aware, all leaders. If you're a brand new leader, I am learning with you. I am not learning at you. I am not teaching you. I am learning with you. We're on this journey together because I've been doing leadership for over 30 years. And some of these things I'm still learning how to set the power of boundaries. I'm still learning how to have non-negotiable personal time. I am terrible at vacations. One of my managers that's worked for me for a long time on and off, knows how to take vacation. They put away their work phone. They're not checking email. Maybe once a day, they're kind of scroll through their stuff and clean out some stuff. I'm looking and answering phones and emails all throughout my vacation. They know how to set a non-negotiable personal time boundary. They're smart about it, and it helps them so incredibly. And so you have got to be able to set non-negotiable personal times. Non-negotiable personal time also includes paying attention to your diet, your mental wellness, and your spiritual wellness. For me, as a Christian, that means that I've got to have my quiet time. I've got to have time where I sit down and I'm reading the word and I'm learning and I'm growing in myself spiritually. And that is the most important non-negotiable time to me. It is. We are so shocked that we're in burnout when all we're doing is stressing about work, and then we do nothing with ourselves. We do nothing with our personal time. Do you have a hobby? Do you make time for that hobby? Do you have a routine? Do you make time for that routine? If you're the kind of person that's like, man, I wish I had time to work out. I don't have time to work out either. I make time. It's non-negotiable. That's the difference. You have time. I guarantee you can wake up an hour earlier if you chose to. You could quit sitting on the couch at 7 to 8 and go to the gym. You could do those things. It's that you don't want to. You wish you would, but you don't want to. You could, instead of going to McDonald's and getting a double quarter pounder with cheese, you could take a salad with you. You could take a steamable meal or meal prep. You could do those things, but you don't want to. If you wanted to, you would do it and it would happen, but you wish it would happen instead of making it happen. You have got to set good boundaries, and the boundaries begin with yourself. You can't set boundaries for others. You can set boundaries for yourself. Now, I can set boundaries for others on how they engage with me. Like, for example, I have a leader who wants to check in once a day. I have some leaders that check in with me 18 times a day. That's great. They know I'm not answering the phone between 6, 7 o'clock, and I'm not answering it from 9 to 5, 9 p.m. at night, 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm not answering it. I had a leader who said, I get these phone calls at 2, 3 a.m. and I get up and I check camera. Stop. What's a security thing? Well, guess what? That's why we have security. That's why we have police officers. They're up, they're able, they're willing. We pay for that service. You let that happen. You don't need to get up and break your sleep cycle and ruin your personal time. It's non-negotiable. Take care of yourself. Sustainable leadership starts with protecting your most valuable asset, and that's you, your time, your energy, your mental, spiritual, and emotional well-being. You have to protect that at all costs. That's setting boundaries. Rant over. Thank you. Let's talk about delegation, because this is another key piece. Leaders fall into this trap of thinking they've got to handle everything themselves. sustainable leadership that requires us to delegate, not only for us, but to foster growth for our team. I actually had a leader who's terrible at delegation. And so the way I was teaching that person how to do it is I just kept giving them things to do. I kept delegating to them. Hey, I need you to do, hey, I need, hey, I need, hey, I need. And I just watch them. I'd watch them flounder. Why am I watching them flounder? Why aren't I just sitting there going, hey, listen, leader, you need to do X, Y, Z. You need to delegate, because they weren't learning that. I was telling them that they weren't learning it. Some people have to learn through failure. And that's a great way to learn. There's nothing wrong with failing. We're so caught up in it. They felt like a failure. And it was then that I picked them up and they said, I can't do all the things that you're asking me to do. It's so much. They started setting a boundary on me. And I said, hey, look, then why are you the one doing it? You have 6, 7, 8 leaders that work for you, but you're busy doing all of these things. Could some of them not do this? Would it not encourage and engage them? Would they not be more excited? Would they see the bigger picture if you had them doing those things? And the answers were yes. They knew it. They would. And it was like a light bulb. Boom. All of a sudden it makes sense to them because I allowed them to fail. And then I gave them a safe space to fail. You have got to quit thinking you're the only one that can do it. Leadership is no longer being the best at what you do. Okay. I have been just blessed with the gift of the fact that I don't do any one thing incredibly well. I do enough of everything that I'm good at them. And being able to be good at them, I find people who are better and I surround myself with them. And then I delegate to them. You've got to be able to delegate and quit thinking that you're the only one that can do things. According to Harvard Business School, leaders who delegate effectively, not just handing out crap willy-nilly, but effectively. And I think we need to probably dive into delegation. Maybe next season, maybe later on this season, but we're going to dive in delegation. Look for it in a show coming up. Anyway, leaders who delegate effectively are 33% more productive and are able to focus on high impact tasks while empowering their teams and developing their own leadership skills. Let me just highlight those last pieces. This is according to Harvard Business School. This isn't just me running my mouth here. They're more productive. That's great. But leaders are able to focus on high impact tasks. What is going to make the biggest impact on what our vision, values, and mission is? I'm going to focus on those. I'm going to delegate the rest. But while I'm doing that, I'm empowering my teams because I'm delegating other pieces to them. And so they have to step up and take ownership of what's going on. And we're developing leadership skills. Delegation shows that you trust your team, strengthens collaboration, boosts morale. So keep in mind, though, delegation isn't just about tasks, but responsibilities. Trust your team to make decisions, take ownership, and grow through experiences. Leadership isn't about doing it all yourself. It's about empowering others to rise with you. Third, I want to talk about prioritizing well-being as a leadership strategy. You need to actually incorporate this into your strategies. You need to incorporate it. If you are a person who does a strategic plan, this needs to be part of your leadership strategy. Prioritizing well-being, both yours and your teams. It's not just about occasional self-care. It's about creating habits that integrate well-being into your daily leadership practices. McKinsey and Company found that leaders who prioritize physical and mental health were 25% more effective in their roles over the long term. Practices like we used to do for a while, I was opening my 5 a.m. workouts. We would meet at a park, and anybody in my group, under my leadership had the opportunity to come join. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't, but it was prioritizing exercise, mindfulness, being mindful of the things that are going on. When we talk about coaching sessions, I talk about getting to know what's going on with that person because you need to be mindful of that. That means that we need to be mindful of their well-being and taking breaks. Okay. There's productivity time, there's performance time, and then there's what I like to call goof off time. Not the words that I use, but I can't use them unless I make this a darker rating. So, these are leadership strategies. because when you're mentally and physically well, you make better decisions, handle stress more effectively, and lead with greater clarity. Goof off time is important. I actually measure the productivity percentage of my team, and I'm looking for about 50%, which means they're going to be effective about 50% of the time. And that's really a good percentage, because that means that they're doing things towards and effective percentages. I'm only looking at what are you doing that is going towards our goals, our mission, our vision. And so that's the time that I'm looking at. So for example, if growth is it, then what are the things that what are the active time consuming things that are being done towards growth? So if you're in sales or sales leadership or service, then it may be cross sales or talking to customers or potential customers about products and services that you offer. And so add up all that time. When you have team that is doing at least 50% of their time is in productivity, that's a great percentage, because you still got to understand they're probably still doing 20-30% of their time in just maintenance and upkeep and cleanliness and organization and all those other things, man, that they need that 20% of just goof off time where, I just got done doing a lot of productivity for the last hour. I was making new contacts, doing this, that, and the other. And then I did a bunch of cleaning and organization. And now, you know what? I'm going to play a game or talk with some of my customers, or talk with some of my employees, or talk with each other. We're going to work together on this. And you need to encourage your team to do the same, because a culture that supports well-being is a culture where both leaders and employees can thrive long-term. Well-being isn't just a break. Well-being is especially not a break from leadership. It's fuel. You have got to fill up your tank. When you are running and running and running, you are running out of a tank, and you've got to be able to fill that tank back up. Number 4, you've got to have a good support system. It's not a solo journey. We aren't alone in this, and that is so hard for us. One, we feel like we have to do everything. 2, we feel like we have to be there for everything. And 3, we feel like we have to do it alone. That if we ask for help, that we're weak. We think that if we ask for help, that means that we can't do it. It's not. This is not sustainable. Leadership isn't a solo journey. It's a marathon, and it's a team sport. Leaders need strong support systems to lean on. Maybe that's mentors and coaches. Maybe it's peers. Maybe it's family. Maybe it's all of the above. I have mentored people who have a great coach, who have a really wonderful peer group, and have a very supportive family, and they are thriving. When bad things happen, it rolls off of them, because this is temporary, and they know it. And they know that coaches and mentors and peers and family are all there to lift them up. Forbes wrote an article on leadership longevity. Wow. And I speak for part of a living. Leadership longevity, and found that leaders with a robust support network are 40% more likely to avoid burnout. 40% more likely, which means you're cutting your chance doggone near in half, and you have a better chance of maintaining long-term success if you have a good support network. Building a support network means you have to have people that you can turn to for advice, for encouragement, or just to share the challenges and victories of leadership. You need to surround yourself with people that are going to hold you accountable, remind you to take care of yourself, and help you to maintain perspective. You need those people. You don't need the people who are like, yeah, that really sucks. I can't believe they did that to you. That's not a friend. That's not a peer. That's not a mentor. Heck, that's barely family. Yes, they should be supportive, but at the same breath, they need to be realistic and go, man, you really screwed that up. Let's fix it. Or, let me help you. Or, hey, I've done something like that myself. Let me tell you how that worked out for me. And you need to be able to listen. Not feel like you have to be right. Not feel like you're alone. Well, I'm the only one going through this, so you wouldn't understand. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Guess what? We have thousands of years of human experiences. And then I would doggone near guarantee that the odds of you going through something different than somebody else, Now, the circumstances may be different, but what you're going through is the same thing as somebody else. And if you don't know, if you don't have a robust support system, the strongest leaders don't lead alone. They build and lean on their support system to keep going. The fifth thing I really feel like, the fifth thing you have to do. I'm not feeling it. I know it. I'm telling you this, and I'm telling you that we are all on this journey together. And I say that because I'm not perfect at any of these. Heck, I'm not good at some of these. I'm still learning just like you. And so I don't care if you've been in leadership 50 years. I don't care if you got an MBA, a doctorate, and you're a CEO or an owner of multiple large billion-dollar organizations. You need these 5 practices, period. From the lowliest to the highest, we need these leadership practices. Number 5, you need to embrace flexibility and adaptability. Sustainable leadership is about embracing that flexibility and adaptability. The business world's constantly changing. Leaders who can adapt to new challenges without rigidly clinging to their old ways of working are the ones who sustain success over the long haul. Deloitte's study found that leaders who are adaptable are 30% more resilient in the face of change and better equipped to handle the evolving demands of leadership. Leadership is going to change. This means you've got to let go of perfectionism. You've got to be open to new ideas, and you've got to allow yourself to pivot when necessary. Movement is life in leadership. And it may be that you're always moving forward and you feel like you've always got to move forward. But when you're hitting that wall over and over and over again, you need to sidestep left, sidestep right. You may need to take a step back, go a different direction, and turn. You need to be able to pivot, but we aren't willing to do that. Flexibility also means that you need to adjust your workload when needed. You need to recognize when it's time to pull back, recalibrate, or delegate. It's not linear. It's about navigating the ups and downs with grace and adaptability. Grace in yourself is equally as important because sustainable leaders don't seek perfection. They seek progress and adapt as they go. It's sustainable leadership isn't just about maintaining high performance. It's about creating long-term practices and sustainable leadership that ensure you're able to lead effectively for the long term. So let's recap 5 key things that you need to focus on in order to be a good, strong, long-term sustainable leader. It's not just about being effective. It's not just about high performance. I may have a high performance month this month, and next month it may struggle. But I need these 5 sustainable leadership practices, and I need to keep to them and keep going with them. And it starts by protecting my most valuable asset, my time, my energy. It starts about setting boundaries to protect my well-being and the long-term effectiveness. Secondly, it's about delegation. Leadership isn't just about doing it all yourself. It's about empowering others to rise with you. Trust your team to step up, grow up, and share the load with you. Third, well-being isn't about a break from leadership. It's about fueling up. You don't just drive. You stop and you put the gas tank, and even when you're in a rush, you've got to sit there and let your car fuel up. You don't do that for you. Prioritize your physical and mental health as a leadership strategy, as a requirement, and not just an afterthought. Fourth, build a strong support system. Build a strong support system, peers, mentored, loved ones. Sustain your leadership journey. The strongest leaders don't lead alone. They build and lean on their support systems to keep going. And fifth, embrace flexibility and adaptability to navigate challenges and stay resilient, because sustainable leaders don't seek perfection. They seek progress, adapting as they go. If you integrate these practices, you're going to be able to lead with strength, clarity, and vision for the long haul. Leadership is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's about sustaining yourself through that with intentional practices and not just effort. It's about not wishing, but wanting it. Next week, I want to talk about legacy and how to create a leadership legacy that lasts beyond you. If today's show resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a comment, share how you're incorporating these leadership practices into your journey. Thanks for joining me on the Matt Largent Concert, where we're not just talking about leadership, we're living it.
And like that,